Hi, welcome to Stories with me, Shonna. Today I've invited a special guest. This is Jack. He's a bit wiggly, but I've invited him to listen to chapter 17 of the Barren Grounds. And he says, I might stay or I might go. I'll just scratch him under the ears and see if that keeps him here. Chapter 17 of the Barren Grounds. And let's get into it. Morgan had a dream. Oh, Jack's gone. I tried. Morgan had a dream. She was standing in the corner of the room again, and the room was lit by a color like the sunset. Warm hues spread across the walls like paint. The light came from a lamp resting on a side table, and the woman, Morgan's mother, was holding her as a young child, humming that same song, humming the song and crying softly, trying not to wake her. And again, there's going to be Cree in this story, and I know my pronunciation is off. I googled it to try to see if I could find out how to pronounce it, and I wasn't successful, so I'm sorry in advance of my bad pronunciation, but I'm going to try my best. The mother whispered, "Oh, kiss kiss totasso, kiss kiss totasso," meaning don't forget who you are. And then Morgan was the child. She looked up at her mother. She reached for her and touched her cheek, soft, warm, damp from crying. Morgan felt the tears against her fingertips. The word was spoken over and over from her mother's lips to her ears. Kiss kiss totasso. There was a knock on the front door. Footsteps moved towards it. Her mother looked towards the bedroom door. She was whispering desperately. It was too late. Morgan heard the front door open, and people came inside. She heard angry voices, and her mother stood up from the chair, panicked, repeating, "Watch, watch!" And she backed away so quickly that she knocked over the lamp. It fell to the ground and shattered. The light went out, and it was totally black. Morgan wailed in her mother's arms, both of them stuck in the dark. "Kiss totasso," her mother said to her, kissing her cheeks and her nose and her mouth. The door opened, and light flooded into the room. Morgan was standing in the corner of the room again, a teenaged girl. She was crying too, and she watched as a man and a woman came inside. The man held her mother back. The woman took the child from her mother's arms. "Watch! Don't take my girl!" Morgan sat up in a cold sweat. She was back in the hut. So Morgan had a dream, but this was no ordinary dream, was it? It almost sounded like it was a memory. Morgan's been wondering, how she came to be a foster kid. And maybe, just maybe, this is her remembering. Somehow being in the Barren Grounds has rekindled her connection with where she's from. And her mother's one wish, aside from wanting to keep her daughter safe with her, was please don't forget who you are. And maybe something about being in the Barren Grounds is what? What do you think? An invitation, maybe, to reactivate that core part of who she is that was stolen from her when she was taken from her mother's arms. This is a very upsetting memory, but sadly it's a reality for so many indigenous families, having to deal with that kind of trauma. The fire had long since gone out, leaving behind charcoal wood and a chill in the air. It was morning. Daylight seeped into the hut through its stitching. She could see Ochek, Arik, and Eli. They'd been sleeping and stirred now only because of Morgan's outburst. What's going on? Eli asked. Morgan kept looking around the hut as though she might be able to see the woman taking the child and stop her. Was the man still holding her mother back? It was horrible. Then she shook her head and closed her eyes tight, willing the vision to leave. She needed to forget the dream because dreams were meant to be forgotten. That's a very powerful line. She needed to forget the dream because dreams were meant to be forgotten. Are dreams meant to be forgotten? And if she tries to forget what happened, she forgets who she is. And that's the one thing her mother said, don't. It's nothing, she said, sorry. You called out no in the good words, Ochik pointed out. No, I didn't. Morgan touched her lips in disbelief. Yes, you did, Eli said. Watch. No. I think I'd remember because it came out of my mouth, Morgan said. You might have thought you said no in your language, but it came out in the good words. The good words are the words from the language of her birthright, her heritage. Arik was stretching joyfully like a cat. I need some air. Morgan got up. Her entire body was shaking. It's nothing to be ashamed of, Ochik said. It's not that I spoke Cree, it's what I dreamed. Morgan walked to the flap, ready to leave the hut, but stopped there. And, despite her best intentions to forget the dream, the nightmare, she played it back clear and full. Watch, she whispered. So there was a time, maybe, that she did speak the good words, that she did speak Cree. And it's coming back to her now. Had she said it? The moment she woke up was the only moment she couldn't remember. She pushed the flap open, walked outside, and what she saw there made her scream. Wolf tracks circled the outside of the hut and then led away up the mountain, the direction they needed to go. Have you ever seen a real wolf or heard one? It would be unsettling to know that a wolf was circling around their hut. What is it now? Ochik asked. Tracks. Morgan couldn't take her eyes off the marks in the snow. It was a relatively calm morning, with the sun reflecting off the snow and causing Morgan's eyes to tear up. She wanted wind to push snow over the tracks so she could pretend they were never there. The others came outside and saw the paw prints. What do we do? Morgan asked. Go back? We can't turn back. Ochik started to take down the hut. The earlier we start moving, the farther we'll get before dark. And the others helped. When they finished and had their packs on, Morgan grabbed Eli's hand and held it tightly. She was determined not to let it go as long as they were outside the hut and walking. Arik had the same idea, finding Ochik's paw and clutching it. Up they went, staying close to one another at all times, which meant that whenever Morgan or Eli fell back, the others did too. There was no wind, which really was a blessing, but the resulting quiet made for an undeniable tension. They heard every sound and were sure that each sound was a wolf stalking them, and it may well have been. More than once, a member of the group thought they saw it pacing behind thick patches of snow-covered pines, which were littered here and there up the mountain. A large beast with dark gray fur and sun-yellow eyes. But on second look, the wolf was always gone, and they began to wonder whether they were seeing things. I don't think we'd all hallucinate the same thing, like the exact same thing, Morgan pointed out. Nobody could argue against that. The higher they went, the harder it was to talk, because while the air had always been cold, it was getting thinner. The mountain sloped gradually but persistently, and they were following the suggestion of a path which, in the green time, might have been an actual path. It wound this way and that, around and through the trees, but always higher, always closer to the summit. Summit means the top, which didn't seem any closer than when they started out. My legs are burning, Morgan said, still walking hand in hand with Eli. This is stair climber in the weight room at school, and this is like going on and never coming off. Mine are too, Eli said. It feels like a trap, she said. What do you mean a trap? Like Arik is setting us up? He asked. I can hear you, Arik said in a sing-song voice. Do you think Arik is trying to set them up in a trap, or do you think Arik is on their side? Let's find out. No, Morgan said. I feel like a trap by the wolf. But it couldn't know we were coming here, not to begin with, Eli said. They both took little gasps of air every few words because of the physical exertion and the ever-thinning air. That doesn't mean it's not planning something, she said. It's circumference. It's the wolf's good fortune. That's probably how it sees it anyway, like Ochik when he saw Arik. I can still hear you, Arik said. We can't turn back now, Eli said, echoing what Ochik had said. I'm not saying we should. I'm just worried, that's all, Morgan said. I am too, he admitted. I am too, I admit. They walked for a few more minutes, and then Morgan continued as though they'd never stopped talking. It's just, she said, we're climbing up a mountain, we're getting more tired, we're all hungry, and who's to say it's not just waiting until we're too tired and too hungry before it decides it's dinner time. You don't need to make us more worried, Eli said. They followed the path through a small grove of pine trees. Morgan was thankful each time the path brought them through trees because she could use them to hoist herself forward and upward. What if the wolf just pounces on us, even if we're all together? Do you think Ochik could fight it off? I used to go out on the land with my Mosham, my grandpa, Eli said. Sometimes I'd watch the animals with him, just to see what they did. You know, how they went about their day and stuff like that. Watch them build shelters, or sleep, or eat, or hunt, all of that. What's your point? She asked. I saw a fisher once, he said. It killed a beaver just like that. The beaver didn't even have a chance. Fishers are excellent hunters. A beaver is not a wolf, she said plainly. Beavers are herbivores, aren't they? Do you know what a herbivore is? A herbivore means a plant eater. A carnivore, that's a meat eater. And an omnivore means a plant eater or a meat eater. Beavers are herbivores, aren't they? Is that supposed to make me feel better? It made me curious about them, he said, so I started watching videos and reading about them. They're pretty awesome. They're talking about you, Arik tugged on Ochik's paw excitedly. Yes, Ochik sighed. I know they are. There was truth to what Eli had said. Ochik was awesome. After all, an entire village relied on him to provide them with food. Really? Even if they get stuck with their quills or whatever? Oh, wait, maybe I skipped a page. I skipped a page, sorry. Always closer. No, wait a minute. Oh, here we go. Okay. There was truth to what Eli had said. Ochik was awesome. After all, an entire village relied on him to provide them with food. They even hunt porcupines, she said. I didn't know that. Really? Even if they get stuck with their quills or whatever? She asked. I guess, he said. I mean, she said, sure, I guess that's better than a beaver, but still a porcupine isn't a wolf. I know, he snapped, obviously frustrated. How about we just stick together and hope for the best? Stick together, Eric chuckled. I get it, because of the porcupine and how it can stick somebody with its quills. We call that a pun on Earth, Morgan said. I kind of like that sort of joke, Eric said. They're very punny. He said punny instead of funny. Can you children not encourage her? Ochik said. They came through the trees and were back out in the open, headed into a long stretch of undisturbed snow. This was a relief, because it meant that the wolf wasn't near them for time being, and none of them was foolish enough to think that it had given up its pursuit. The sunlight glittered off the mountainside, and it looked like a waterfall of stars. At the next group of trees, they sat down in the middle of the grove, and Eli made a fire. Nearby lay a felled pine tree that was thin and long dead. Come here and watch, Ochik said. He used a small hatchet. A hatchet is another word for an axe. To cut the tree into smaller pieces, and then had Morgan retrieve 2 forked sticks from the ground. Forked means like this. Together they cut down a green branch from one of the live trees. Morgan held it down and Ochik chopped it off. Ochik drove the 2 forked sticks into the ground on either side and suspended means in the air, the green stick over the fire with either end of it secured with forked sticks. Wow, she said, that seemed way harder when I watched you and Eli do it. Now you have a spit and you can cook over the fire. Ochik said, well done. Thank you, Morgan said proudly. Next thing you know, I'll be making the fires too. And what will Eli do? Lie back and relax, Eli laughed, and then did just that for a moment. There's always something to do, Ochik said. It was an uneventful lunch. The group noticed their exhaustion only when they finally rested. They sat chewing and sipping in silence until Ochik spoke sharply. Get behind me. Uh-oh, I wonder what it is. What do you think? There came a growl, low and terrible. Ochik raised his arms out from his sides protectively, corralling the 3 of them. Corralling means bringing together. The 3 others behind him. Another growl, followed by a sharp bark. Morgan shuffled to the side and stretched her neck so that she could see over Ochik's shoulder. Eli grabbed her hand, and she thought her hand had never been held tighter. He was either scared or wanting her not to move, likely both. But then he edged out to the side as well and looked out from behind Morgan. The wolf was standing on all 4s at the end of the grove between the travelers and the top of the mountain. Its entire body was covered in dark gray fur, which seemed only there to to frame its yellow eyes, more blinding than the sun, reflecting off the snowy terrain. Even more pronounced than the wolf's fur or eyes was its size. Beings across a sky were in various stages of starvation, their fur matted and thin, failing to hide the fact they had no meat on their bones. The wolf appeared well fed, a hulk of an animal, healthy, its body thick and strong and horrifying. It's not from here, Morgan whispered. Quiet, Ochik whispered, his body unmoving. She's right, Eli whispered. Look at that. It's not starving. It's from where there's summer, Morgan said. Each one of them refused to take their eyes off of the wolf, and the wolf likewise didn't take its eyes off of the group. It may as well have been a statue, unmoving until ready to strike. I heard the summer birds were being held by the man in a cabin just past the mountains, Arik said. Those aren't exactly GPS coordinates, Morgan said. All we need to do is get past the wolf and over the mountain, Arik said. Simple. Simple? Morgan said. How are we ever going to make it past that thing? If that's true, Ochik said, it means the wolf isn't here to eat us now, and it wasn't here to eat me years ago. Well, isn't that what wolves stalk people for? Morgan asked. To eat them? It's here to keep us away from the green time, Ochik said. I didn't know it back then, or I might have tried to fight it. I know it now. At that moment, the wolf rose from its 4 paws to stand on its hind legs. It straightened out its back with an awful crack, extended its claws, and puffed out its chest. Now standing, with a decidedly evil smirk. A smirk is like a pretend smile. It looked bigger than it had before. Its shadow fell over them as if the sky itself had been covered. Ochik reached down, picked up the hatchet. Remember, a hatchet is a small axe. He picked up the hatchet he'd used to cut the wood and clutched it firmly. You're right, Ochik. When the wolf spoke, it sounded like he was growling. He had a deep and gravelly voice. I'm not here to eat you, but I will. Go back to Miswa. You were smart enough to do that before. Go back and what? Die? Ochik asked. Die with your village, the wolf said. It's only right. You've suffered together. I'd rather die fighting than die hungry. Ochik pulled out his knife to wield a battle in either paw. Anticipating a battle, Arik took one of the hut poles out and wielded it like a bow staff. Morgan grabbed the end of a piece of wood in the fire and picked it up. A torch was better than nothing. And Eli just kept backing away, his heels sliding through the snow, his hands shaking, his eyes wide with fear. The wolf took one step forward. You're with the man, Ochik said. Why? Better there than here, wouldn't you say? The wolf asked. You're a traitor, Ochik said. I stay in the green time, the wolf said, and in turn I keep the 2-legged out. Do you know what it means to be a traitor? It means someone who went against the group in a bad way. That's exactly what Ochik meant when he said you were a traitor, Arik said. You're just agreeing with him. This is fun for me. I'm no traitor, the wolf said. When I'm tired of the man, I'll kill him too. Come with us, Ochik said. Release the summer birds so that we can all live the way we were meant to live. And stay with you in your village, the wolf asked. Pathetic. So that's a no, Arik said. I'll take the green time rather than all 4 seasons in their endless cycle. The wolf took another step forward. He was now in the grove. So it's interesting. The wolf was a traitor. He betrayed his kind, his people, his community by protecting the 2-legged man and being selfish, always wanting everything for himself in the summertime. And he's not loyal to his community. Is he loyal to the man? Not really. He's only serving himself. The wolf took another step forward. He was now in the grove. Morgan reached forward with her torch. Arik held her staff out in front of Morgan defensively. Ochik stepped up toward the wolf, his weapons at the ready, and the wolf growled and bared his teeth. Now, he said, I gave you a choice. There is no choice, Ochik said. If you think you're as vicious as we are determined, shut up and fight. The wolf looked back and forth across all 4 of them, sizing each of the travelers up, looking at their weapons, meeting their eyes, and paying particular attention to Eli. Why do you think he was paying particular attention to Eli? I think Eli is the weakest one, too. This made Morgan step in front of Eli and grab onto her torch with both hands as if she were holding an axe. The wolf's bright yellow eyes narrowed as his eyebrows furrowed, and he let out a violent growl, long and sharp, and then he backed out of the grove and dropped to all fours again. "You'll be at the summit by nightfall," he said. "I'll give you that time as a courtesy to think about how awful you want your death to be." "We won't change our minds," Ochik said. "Then I will see you very soon," he said. The wolf strode away from them slowly and deliberately, and when the wolf was gone, they were finally able to relax and lowered their weapons. "Are you okay?" Morgan asked Eli, who was still shaking. "Yeah," he said, but his trembling lips and voice said otherwise. "I'm fine." She dropped the wood back into the fire and took his hand in hers. "We can leave. We can always leave." "Stop saying that," he said. "Why didn't he just finish us off?" Ochik asked, more to himself than anybody else, it seemed. Arik answered anyway. "You heard him. This is sport. He knows he can kill us whenever he wants." "No," Ochik said. "There's something else." "He can't have been scared of us," Arik said. "Maybe he feels guilty about what he's doing," Ochik said. "That wolf?" Arik said. "Did we just see the same wolf? Then how would you explain it?" "Me?" Arik shook her head. "I'm just happy to be alive." They packed up from lunch without talking about the wolf or the choice he'd given them, left the grove, and continued towards the peak. Now it refused to stay in the distance, forever out of reach, as it had seemed to be earlier in the day. Now it looked closer and closer by the second, and Morgan couldn't help but wonder if they were climbing towards their death rather than Missawa's salvation. Would you have kept going? Or would you have wanted to turn around? Very scary and a very exciting part of the story. Thank you for joining me today. And we'll be reading what's the next chapter? I think chapter 18 next. Oops, sorry about that. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.